Thank you, Tori. Good morning again, everyone. So earlier this week, I was asking Reverend Lee, I said, so I don't know if I can preach in a bathrobe. Um, she said, well, if it's an issue, Tim, bring your blazer with you. But I think I'm going to do it, or I'm going to try it. So can you all take me reasonably seriously if I'm wearing my bathrobe? Okay, good. All right. I mean, not that you really should anyway, but just I don't want the bathrobe to be a distraction. So I'm so glad you all are here today. Lot going on in the world. Um, I was very blessed to be able to call Robbie Walsh my very first Unitarian Universalist minister when I discovered Unitarian Universalism about, oh gosh, 27 years ago. And Robbie became sort of my UU muse. His vision and understanding of what Unitarian Universalism is very much became mine. And I actually had the privilege once of hearing him preach a sermon after he shared this very meditation, which of course he wrote. I want to say more about that in a minute, but before I do, I want to say a word about what happened at the University of Virginia and especially at the medical center on Friday. So Linda Dukes is holding up a sign. So for those of you who aren't aware, UVA Medical, after receiving pressure from the Attorney General of Virginia, and of course, an executive order coming from the White House about gender affirming care for minors, decided to suspend the providing of that care for anyone under the age of 19. And now I could spend 20 minutes telling you what I think about this decision. I'll save that for another time. But let me say this. I would just want to state very clearly from this pulpit and on behalf of this congregation that the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Charlottesville stands with trans youth, with people who are LGBTQ plus. We we are a community of unconditional love, welcome, and commitment to justice. And I want to make sure that message is loud and clear. On Friday, I'm sure many of you probably didn't see this, but I wrote a social media post on behalf of the congregation. You probably can't read it, but it says very much what I just said. And so I want to make sure that that message was out there, that we are here, that we are ready to offer support. We are ready to do what we can to create positive change. So, and I would also add, that the time has definitely come, and it's in our long-range plan, but we're doing so many things right now, but the time has now come to really re-energize an LGBTQ plus ministry in this congregation, and watch for a text or an email announcing a Zoom conversation that'll happen hopefully this coming week. And if you would like to participate in that conversation, you are most welcome. But we've got to roll up our sleeves and get busy. So now, UVA's decision certainly fits a pattern that we are seeing in this country, a pattern in which fear and intimidation are already, in 2 very short weeks, leading to changes that are harmful, scary, and wrong. It seems like for me, and I'm speaking for myself, but from talking to many of you, I think I'm speaking for you as well, that almost every day something new is announced, something new happens, and my spirits just go down. They basically hit rock bottom. In less than 2 weeks, so many marginalized communities are already experiencing harm and are being used as scapegoats and dog whistles, while our Constitution, democracy, the democratic process are being undermined. These are hard times, and to imagine 4 years makes me low. I know you thought I was here to cheer you up. And actually, this is my question. This is what I want to take a few minutes to talk about. And this is where Robbie's meditation fits in. So in a time like this, where do we find hope? With this daily barrage of negativity, of hurtful language, of hurtful actions, where's the source of strength? Where's the sources of hope? I want to make the case today that for me, and I think for many, at least some of those sources can come from Unitarian Universalism, from this very faith tradition. For example, listening to Peter Mayer's song, Holy Now. I don't know that Peter Mayer is officially a Unitarian Universalist. I don't really care about that. He's a wonderful songwriter who many of you, of course, are familiar with and probably in love with his hymn, Blue Boat Home. Peter Mayer wrote that too. But his lyrics, his vision, his understanding of religion in Holy Now and in Blue Boat Home, they start to bring my spirits up. Everything is holy. Everything is a miracle. It reminds me why I'm a Unitarian Universalist. It calls me back to those things that bring meaning and hope to my life. And I especially want to argue that Robbie Walsh's meditation is a wonderful, I think, vision of what the meaning of hope is and where hope comes from in Unitarian Universalism. At least it is for me. Think about what Robbie's saying. Nothing is settled. That's a Unitarian Universalist vision. Doesn't mean that we don't have principles and values and covenants and all of those wonderful things. But Unitarian Universalism recognizes at its core that that life, that the universe is in process. It's evolving, it's changing. The outcome is not known. There's no, as much as we think life is determined by X or Y, and a good bit of it is, but there's openness, there's pluralism, there's diversity. There's these characteristics that lead the universe to be a place of extraordinary beauty, awe-inspiring mystery. That's the vision, if you will, of the universe, of life, of existence, I think, that's at the heart of Unitarian Universalism. We celebrate questions and answers. We celebrate uncertainty and certainty, but we never stop searching. We never stop seeking. And the reason for that is because we believe in a world and a reality that is always in process. It is always, always itself moving. Listen to what Robbie said that Tori read for us a minute ago. What is not settled is how the story turns out. What is not settled is what the meaning of your life will be. The meaning of a life is not contained within one act, one day, or 1 year. As long as we are alive, the story of our lives is still being told, and the meaning is still open. As long as there is life in the world, the story of the world is still being told. What is done is done. And I'll add, what's being done right now is not good, but nothing is ultimately settled. Thinking about that, reflecting on Robbie's beautiful words, it just helps me to say, things are bad, they're likely to get worse, but that's not destiny. Change is possible, justice is possible. And I will say that one of the reasons Unitarian Universalists maintain their hope and don't give up is because there is at least one thing I think that is settled in Unitarian Universalism, and that is the power of love. Unitarian Universalism affirms that love is real, that love exists, that love is at the center. That love is at the center. That's actually the essence of the Universalist side of our faith. Now, how you understand where that love comes from, that's up to you. Maybe you see it in a divine being, a divine creator. If you do, that's wonderful. If you see that love emerging from the beauty and majesty of the human heart, that's equally wonderful. The point is, love, nothing can stamp out love. Love never ends. Now, I can hear my critics saying, okay, wait a minute. If love is so powerful, why are things so icky, terrible right now? If love is so powerful, why is this happening? For you theologians out there, this is the issue of, or the question of theodicy. Why does a loving God, if you will, allow bad things to happen? Well, there's different answers to that question, and that's like 10 more sermons. So I'll get to that at some point. But when I think about the theodicy question, I am always brought back as a Unitarian Universalist, because we find wisdom and truth in all religious traditions. I am always brought back to a concept and a story in the Jewish tradition. I've talked about this before, and this concept is called tikkun olam, which means to repair the world. And the understanding in the Jewish tradition is that when the world was created, let's just say by God, that creation was somewhat broken, that there's a crack in creation, a crack that causes hurt, injustice, suffering, pain. And God relies on us to heal or repair that crack. That's tikkun olam, repairing or healing the world. So creation wasn't perfect. It was incomplete. The purpose of a human life in the Jewish tradition is to do your part to finish the work of creation. And I think the idea that this life, this world, this existence are both beautiful and broken, magnificent and yet unfinished, I think that idea is terribly important in Unitarian Universalism. It's never been enough in our tradition for UUs to simply sit back and wait for God or the gods to do the repairing or to create the healing. It's up to us, Unitarian Universalists, all people, to take the gift of life that has blessed us and to build a world in which, again, drawing on the Jewish tradition, the Hebrew prophet said, and that Dr. King quoted so often, a world in which justice rolls down like waters and peace like an ever-flowing stream. That's why we're here. That's our calling. Here's Robbie's words again. Every choice, every act matters. Every word, Every deed is making the meaning of your life and telling the story of the world. Everything matters in the year coming, and more important, everything matters today. Nothing is settled. Everything matters. There's no question that these are frightening, difficult times. If you come into this space today, or if you're online and you're feeling scared, angry, lost, perhaps even hopeless, please know that you are not alone. If you're in that place, I invite you to turn to Unitarian Universalism. Turn to the words of our poets and meditation writers like Robbie Walsh, songwriters like Peter Mayer. Draw wisdom and inspiration from the words of courageous and prophetic people. And perhaps most importantly, turn to each other. Turn to both your neighbor and the stranger. Turn to your family, your friends, to the person sitting next to you, and yes, to this beloved community. Let love fill your heart and give you hope. And when you're able to find your way back to hope, take it with you out into the world. Share it with others, turn it into deeds of love and kindness, compassion, and justice. Be a vessel for love, a conduit for kindness, an instrument of peace. Everything you do, no matter how small and perhaps seemingly insignificant, everything you do, your words, your deeds, your very life touches others, and with it transforms the world. That, my friends, is the power of love. That's what happens when we put love at the center and live Unitarian Universalism. May it be so. Blessed be, and thank you so much for listening.